Okay, folks, how many times has this happened to you? You do your tutorial, you do your assignment, you end up with your image gallery or something, and you think, what else can I do? How can I make this more wonderful? How can I add some class? How can I add a little swag or whatever, okay? Let me show you what you can do to go and make it up just a little different. Number one, I want to talk to you guys about the height of your divs. Now, on the web page, on any given website, guys, on your browser, technically speaking, there's no official way. I mean, there are some ways, but for the most part, you can't really do a lot with height. You're going to get the height you get based on how much content is in there and some other things. Now, there are some modifications for it. However, we can do a min height and a max height. So let me show you how to do that. First things first, on your thumbnail, you set the width here. That's 200 pixels wide. Hold on a second. Okay, so with the 200, let's try a height of, say, 300 pixels. I'm going to set it and see if that changes our image gallery. See what happened there? Height, 300 pixels. So it makes these three divs about the same height. Of course, if you do that, then one of the problems you have is the idea of all this white space under here. So my recommendation, probably the better thing to do, would be to set a height on your image. The other thing, guys, if you're in Internet Explorer, let's go ahead and launch an Internet Explorer. You're going to find there's going to be a blue border around your image. So let's take a look at that. And I'll show you how to get rid of that blue border. Okay, while we're waiting for that to load, let's do this. You have a height. We can do the following here on the height. You can write min height, and you can set it at 250, for example. Save your changes. Minimum height means it might be taller, but if it's not, this is how tall it's going to go. So sometimes minimum height is a good one to do because then, you know, at least you're going to have a little bit more uniformity. But still, with this picture of Taos, you are going to want to probably crop that image a little bit. But by setting a minimum height, then, even if it's shorter, it will go a little bit longer. You can also set a max height of 250, for example. Max height, that's the maximum height. And let's see what happens when we do this. Hit refresh. Look what happened with maximum height. It just cuts off the image. However, you can see underneath, your text is still showing underneath, but the border sort of cuts it off there. So max height is probably not the better way to go. I would just focus on the min height, but you can set it there. I'm going to go back to a minimum height. And then we'll go back to see that. Hit refresh. And now let's go back to what I was telling you about before on Internet Explorer. And it's somewhere on here. All right. When you're on Internet Explorer, you're going to have these blue borders around your image. To get rid of it, it's really simple. It's the image itself, but it's in a thumbnail. So what you're going to do is you're going to write thumbnail, div.thumbnail, or just .thumbnail. Let's go ahead and do that. Put a space and write IMG for your image tag. And on here, just put border. Just try 0 and just see what happens. And there it's gone. If I hover over, I still get the cursor. So if I click it, I can still see the full size view. Okay, why is this doing that? All right, you get the idea. There we go. Okay, that's getting rid of the border. So I'm going to put a little comment on here. Okay, that's how you remove the blue border. Now, before I do this, I better save my changes and make sure it still works. Sometimes you put a comment in the style tag and it breaks it. It didn't, so we're okay. All right, that's how you remove the blue border. Let's talk about rounded corners. Now, if you want to make your image gallery thumbnails have a rounded corner, you're going to add the following. And let's just go back to div thumbnail. Now, I normally would actually just put my code right inside of here, but because I put a little comment here, I figured you might want to see this just by itself. And it's border radius. Give it 2 pixels, for example, and watch what happens. Well, it's a little bit hard with the 2 pixel border radius, so try 4 pixel and test that out. So what you're doing is you're adding a rounded corner using border radius. Make it 10 pixels and watch what happens. See how rounded they are now? So you've added a little bit of a rounded corner. You could also do border. Let's try border top radius, see if that works. Nope, it doesn't work that way. Sorry, let me go back. Okay, border radius. If you give it 1 value, it'll be evenly rounded all the way around your image. So every single corner will have the same exact rounded corner. If you give it a border radius of 10 and 20 pixels, the first one is left to right, the second one's top to bottom, hit save, and you will have irregular corners. What you did here is you made the top left and bottom right be rounded as far as 10 pixels, and then the top right and bottom left as a bigger rounded. You can see that. What I meant to do was 10 pixels slash 20 pixels. Now watch what happens here. There you go. Now you make them sort of irregular. The other thing you can do is you can put 10 pixels, 0, 0, 0. Now watch what happens here. We're going to give it 4 values. Only the first one is 10 pixels. Hit refresh. Look at that. Only the top left border has a rounded corner. Now, watch what I do here. We're going to do something a little bit different. Instead of div.thumbnail, we're going to do a div.top-left. We're going to give it a different class called top left. So any div that has a top left class is going to have the top left corner rounded. So let's do this. Go down to your code here. Your first div should be top left. Top dash left. Now notice, I added my class in the same quotation marks as my thumbnail. I just separate it with the space. Right there is a space. To save my changes, hit refresh. And now only the top left corner of the top left div has a rounded corner. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a top right one, and it's only going to be the top right. Then I'll do a bottom left at the bottom and a bottom right at the bottom, and you will see how this works. Following the same general idea. So that's top left. I'm going to do a top right. And this time it's going to be 0, 10 pixels, 0, 0. Save our changes. Now, we got to add a top right div to the third div. So there's the first one. There's the second one. It's this one. Top right. Save your changes. Hit refresh. Now, top left corner, top right corner are both rounded. So you have this overall effect of all of your divs sort of creating this kind of rounded hole, but it's almost like it's a piece of all of them. And let's change the 10 pixels to 20 just to exaggerate it a little bit more. and hit refresh. There you go. So it's becoming a little more obvious that you're making this change. And we do that using a class. So we're going to do a bottom left and a bottom right. So we'll just change top to bottom. So bottom left, by the way, this goes clockwise, so we'll change this to bottom right, and then bottom left. So the first value is for the top left. The second value in a series of 4 is the top right. The third value is bottom right, and if you put it on the fourth one, it'll be bottom left. So it goes clockwise. First value is top right, second one's, or top left, excuse me, then top right, then bottom right, then bottom left. Clockwise from the top left around. Save our changes. Now, bottom right's going to be, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 7th div. Okay, so remember we did a clear float. It'll be on this clear float you want to add it. Bottom right, and then you want to do, oh, I'm sorry, bottom left here, and then a bottom right on the last div. So this div will have a bottom left, and the far right one will have a bottom right. We'll save our changes, hit refresh, and now take a look at the bottom of our page. Isn't that kind of nice? Zoom out a little bit so you can kind of see it. Let's make those even more exaggerated. We'll change all the 20s to 40. Save your changes, hit refresh, and now you can really see how that works.